Hello, everyone, and welcome to PRConnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the managing member of Classic Communications, a full-service public relations and advertising company. And I am with a good friend of mine named John Calabrese, and he's going to share some fantastic information with all of you today over the course of the next hour that I think will have a profound impact upon your life and the way that you live it. Welcome to the show, John.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, John, will you share with us your background a bit?
Well, I started training in martial arts when I was 16 years old. And currently I'm an 8th degree black belt in body mind systems. It's a Bagua based martial art. I've reached a master level. And I also am a speaker, an author, and a personal development life coach. So I've cover a lot of ground, but a lot of it stems from my background in martial arts. And then, of course, I've also done a lot of personal development training and with a lot of the top teachers in the industry and really have a good, it was a really nice blend. It's kind of like East meets West type of thing with the martial art background and then the Western side.
And you were mentioning that you have this deep background in martial arts, but you're also very engaged in personal development. How do the two overlap one another? The things that you learn from martial arts and now, of course, being a coach and helping people on the personal development side?
Well, a lot of it's I'll give you an example. In martial arts, it's called the law of resonance. In personal development, it's called the law of attraction. It's the exact same thing. But what you can see, though, is just really developing the mind in martial arts and developing the self-discipline to be able to actually follow through on what it is that you're doing within your personal development training or, whatever the protocols that you're following there to try to bring about a certain change or a certain result. If you don't have willpower, you'll never get started. If you don't have determination and persistence, you'll never follow it through. And those are really something that is paramount in martial arts. I mean, it's a big part of the training. So it's something where I think it kind of gives you more of a ability to follow through on what it is that you're doing. And really, because you're developing the mind in martial arts, it really makes the personal development information more receivable because you've been working with energy and working with your mind since you were a teenager. So it's not really, that information is just so easily understood and internalized. So I think that brings a totally different, skill set to it.
The discipline and the mindset, and I would agree. I mean, I've never done martial arts, but I could see I've done a lot of personal development, and I do understand the commitment and the discipline that it takes to stay on a path of personal development.
Right. Very much so.
Yeah. So John wrote a fantastic book years ago, and it is called You Are the Common Denominator in Your Life. And I originally worked with John on this project as an editor, and I read it a long time ago, and I was telling John how impactful it is to see. Number one, he's creating a series of these books. So this is only one of the books that he's developed. He's got more that he's going to be putting out as well. But the fundamental things that he talks about in this book, I think could help anyone in any goal that they're pursuing. Success in any area can basically be developed through the foundational principles in this book. Why'd you write the book, John?
Well, it's actually a conversation that I had always been having with the students that I was training. And so I thought, I should just put this down on paper. And then it really expanded, but it was one of those books that was so easy to write. I just sat down and I just wrote it. It wasn't like other things that you do. It takes thought and time. And this was it just flowed. It was just such because it was information that was so, that I was just working with so often and repeating it so often that it was so easy to just put it all on paper. And then it was a matter of really refining it. And, I recently revised it and put in a lot of additional information and then republished it with the revised version. So it was something that I felt really it was nice to be able to put some additional, because there's things that I thought about, because I wrote it in 2014. So I've grown a lot since then. So then whenever I'd read it, I'd say, well, I should have said this, or I should have put this in there. So I went and I did that.
Yes, that's part of the evolution, right? And the
Right.
personal development is, as you mentioned, you're not the same person. Even though it was only 6 years ago, a person changes a lot in 6 years, living, experiencing things, going through life. And I think our lives constantly need a revision. What is
Oh,
your perspective on that?
well, yeah, you're constantly need to be growing. Because, I mean, the statement, either you're growing or you're dying, but that is literal, because you're either, your cells are either growing and going in a positive direction, or you're deteriorating and you're slowly falling apart. Because if you look at it from a quantum physics standpoint, nothing stands still. The cells are always in action.
Yes, and you're constantly regenerating your cells, and that's what keeps you on the planet. When you stop regenerating cells, yes, you're not on the planet anymore, or you're not in the human form anyway.
Right.
Tell me about living outside of the box. I know that's one of the principles that you are a big believer in. What does that mean?
Well, I'd like to just start kind of with the premise of the book, and then it'll go right into that. But you are the common denominator in your life means that you go everywhere you go. Anything that's happening, you're there, right, with yourself. And if you were to, let's say, improve your communication, then it's not like you're just going to improve your communication at work. That good communication is going to go into your relationships. It's going to go into every area of your life. So it's about trying to constantly find and challenge ways to grow and develop so that you're always bringing more to the table. If you say like an equation, you plus your work equals a result. You plus your relationships equals a result. You plus anything equal a result. You're always the common denominator in the equation. So it's a matter of really trying to always better yourself so that you bring more to your life, you bring more to others that you're interacting with, because you're on an upward trajectory. And so I think going into the, living outside of the box is, a lot of times people take the status quo as like what you should have or you should be doing, or they think that because somebody with a big degree said something that makes it true, or that makes it true in their life, or it means it's relevant to them, where it very easily could not be. You know what I'm saying? Because you're the one kind of dictating your own shots, your own things that you're doing in your life. And let me just give you a couple examples. Albert Marconi. I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with this story, but he had this idea. This was many years ago. I think it was like in the 30s or 20s. And he had this idea where he thought that you could project information through the air to a distant location with a transmitter and have it be received by a receiver. And then you could actually communicate from a long distance. And all of his friends that he told about it got together and they took him to an insane asylum and had him locked up. Now, when he got out of the insane asylum, he developed the radio wave. He discovered it and got that on its way. So we wouldn't have the radio if he didn't pursue what people considered to be craziness, and literally had him committed because he said he was going to do that. So he was thinking and living outside of the box. He didn't just think it, he did it. He actually developed the radio wave. Okay. And then a second example, this happened where when early explorers, they were up in, again, kind of in the 20s, 30s range. They took it, this was out of the Napoleon Hills, the Law of Success in 16 Lessons. This is where I heard this story. And what happened was the explorers were up there up in the, the Yukon, up in like where the Eskimos are, right up on the North Pole area. And so he's up there and they take one of the Eskimos because he was such a good guide and helped them so much. They wanted to do something special for him. So they took him to New York City. Now all he was used to doing was fishing, hunting for seals, and living in an igloo. So this was just to be in New York City and to see skyscrapers and to see these big bridges and these huge ships and these cars and all these other things that were going on. And he was just blown away by it all. He thought, I can't wait to get home and tell all my friends about this. And so he got back to, back to his homeland, and he told everyone about it. And he received a new name, and it translates to mean liar, because they couldn't wrap their head around that actually existing. There was no way that could actually exist. And so when those traders came back up there and they offered another Eskimo the opportunity to go to New York, and he went and he came back and they said, so what was it like in New York? He said, the fishing was great. Seals, so many seals. I couldn't believe how many seals there were. You couldn't miss one when you were hunting. And then his friend, the first Eskimo that had been called a liar came up to him and said, well, why is it that you didn't tell him what you really saw? We were both there. We both know what was there. There weren't any seals. Okay. And he said, I didn't want that to happen to me, what happened to you. So he lied. And what that leads me to is that a lot of information is considered kind of secret information. And the reason that it's called secret information isn't that it's so bad that you can't tell anybody. It's just people have a hard time wrapping their head around it, and they're going to judge you as a lunatic for saying it. So you actually, the more you know, the less you can say, because people have a real hard time with things they can't wrap their head around. And they're going to label you and judge you. They're not going to look at themselves and say, why am I such a small thinker? They're going to say, well, they're going to have to put that on you. So I think it's really important to really kind of create your own life and what you're going to go by and what you're going to understand as truth. Just because everyone else is too small of a thinker or just ignorant to those concepts, well, it's your choice and not theirs. So, you operate off of that information. You just don't always say it out loud. And I think that's really the crux of it, is that, you're going to go where you know to go. You're going to do what feels right to you. You're not going to ask for permission. You're not going to take a vote and see if everyone's okay with that. You're going to do what you know is right for your life. And you're not going to really shrink just to conform to everybody else's small thinking.
There's definitely a lot of success in doing things the exact opposite of what you see most people doing. And that was what I got out of what you were just sharing a minute ago. And there's another phrase that my mentor says all the time. It's the crazy ones that make all the money. Right? And when you were sharing that story about Marconi and people thought he was a nut, and that type of thinking is what leads to the greatest creations, inventions that our planet has ever seen.
Yeah, most definitely. I saw something, it was a quote, it was, I think, Aristotle or someone along those lines, and he said, within genius is always a certain amount of madness.
Absolutely. Yeah, the thin line between genius and
Right.
insanity.
Well, it's really what people can take from it, what they see.
Yeah, that's so true. And another perspective that I know that you talk about a lot and you mention in your book is how powerful your thoughts are. And again, that's a very common phrase that we hear about, especially in the personal development world. But I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are about the power of thought.
Well, I think Lao Tzu back in about 200 BC put it best when he said, "Be careful of what you think because what you think is what you'll say. Be careful of what you say because what you say is what you'll do. Be careful of what you do because those will become your habits, and your habits will become your character, and your character will become your destiny." So it just really is stating that your thoughts are first cause in everything in your life. So everything starts with a thought. You think before you do something, generally, right? I mean, some people think that they don't think before they act, and they usually are regretting it. So, maybe it would have been better to think first at that point. But it really comes down to the fact that your thinking is really creating every single thing. It creates your words, it creates your actions, it creates your character. Everything starts from that place of thought. And the other thing that it does is it actually there's a mental and physical, mind and body type connection from your thoughts, because every time you think a thought, you release a chemical. If you think a good thought, you release a good chemical, like, you know, maybe endorphins. Those are always nice. Serotonin, something really good. So it's happy hormones. But when you think negative thoughts, it actually weakens your body and releases chemicals that are not really all that great for you, like stress hormones. I've also heard those called death hormones, because it has such a negative effect upon your body. You always want to keep that right alkaline, acidic balance going on in your body. And negative thoughts do not help with that, because they're releasing those stress hormones, which again, are kind of you're bringing your body down. And especially in today's condition, we need everything we have going for our immune system. And so positive thinking has a very positive effect on your immune system. So it's very important to kind of keep those thoughts. Plus, those thoughts lead to your words, lead to your actions. So those thoughts are creating everything that's about to unfold in front of you. So you really, again, you got to go to that initial first cause of things. And, they also start to develop your positions or your attitudes in things. And so if you constantly think a certain way, you're also programming your subconscious mind with your thoughts. And it's something where you just keep thinking a certain thing, it really becomes your truth. And it's best to think good things as long as you're going to do it that way. You got those repetitive thoughts, make them good ones, because they'll produce a good result and really allow you to really accomplish in life what's going to be best for you, not just whatever repetitive thought you happen to have, good or bad.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who might be listening right now or who will listen to this, and they'll say, I understand what you're saying. Yes, thinking positively is absolutely something that I need to do, but look at life. Look at all these things that are happening to me. Look at all these negative situations that I have. And so what I'm saying is, for someone who is thinking this, what are some techniques that they can use to start to shift their thinking so that they can get the positive result that you were talking about?
Well, I really think immersing yourself in the right type of information allows you to keep it on the top of your mind. If you're listening to an audio of very positive information and uplifting information, it's hard to have a negative thought at that time. And if you do that for hours and hours and hours because you are so negative that you're going to need a lot of positive information coming into your head to flip that switch, it's really critical that you read, reading Napoleon Hill, Esther Hicks, Bob Proctor. I mean, there's so many great authors out there with books that really have such great messaging. And a lot of times you'll hear a certain piece of information and you've heard it a million times because you've been listening and you've been reading, but you hear it, it hits you in a new and unique way. And it really gives you that aha moment. And that really starts to change because it's almost like there's a balance within your body of how much negative you are, how much positive you are. And I've heard grandmasters say that if you can get your thinking 51% of the time positive, you're enlightened, because that's tough. And the further you go, you get up to 60%, 70%. Now you've got momentum on your side. And it actually gets easier and easier to climb that ladder as you get past that 50% mark. So that would be my advice on that. And really constantly do things that allow you to check yourself. I mean, I've even gone so far as to put some things like that on my to-do list just to check. How are you doing? Where are you at today? Or even little cards just to remind me of certain thoughts that I wanted to have that would negate all the other things that I probably was drifting into. And so you've just got to find a way, whatever resonates with you, and you feel that you could consistently do it and that it would be helpful.
I agree with you, and there's so much great content available out there nowadays, John. We have YouTube, we have libraries where you can go and get this stuff for free. I mean, changing your thinking, you can do it for almost nothing. I mean, it's great. I know you and I have spent money on personal development, quite a bit of money.
Right.
Which, of course, that takes you to a higher level because you get access to greater levels of information. But for someone who's just getting started, just to utilize all the great material that's available on YouTube or all these books that you talked about, you can buy through Amazon for some of them for like $5. Used books. I mean, literally, if there's no excuse for not getting started. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean, look at YouTube. I love YouTube. I go on there constantly and watch so much great content. And I stumble upon people that I've never heard of, but they have excellent content. Or, it's amazing how accessible that all is. I mean, I know you and I have invested a lot in our training, but I think being able to be trained by someone, have mentors, have people that can actually guide you through the path really saves time, because you could read a book and think that that's good when if you asked somebody that's knowledgeable in it, they would say, not so much. You know what I'm saying? That does actually give you this, but this, and that is not in there that needs to be. So it was kind of skipped over. It's like the law of attraction has so much disinformation or it's just very misunderstood, because people think that that's all it is. That's just a piece of the puzzle. It's like the grease that makes the wheels turn, but you still have to take the action. You still have to take the inspired action. You still have to do the work. It's just, I think that the law of attraction opens doors, windows, and paves the road for you, but you still got to do it yourself. And that's why, I do personal development coaching. And I think that being able to guide people each step of the way so that they don't waste time and they don't wind up with information that isn't even valid. Just because somebody said it doesn't make it true. So it's something that you can save them a lot of time and money over the long run, just by giving them a little more understanding of the rules of the road here. and really how it works and how you can guide it. That's why I even do like a free consultation. So it doesn't even necessarily have to cost anything. It's like a 1 hour consultation and just help kind of give you some insight, see if, really going further with the coaching is a good idea or not. But it's something that I really value all the teachers I have and have had, because it really saved me years off of my life of really just trying to find the path and find the information. So it really, I felt, made a huge difference. And so I would, whoever, as long as you get a qualified guide, a qualified teacher or mentor, it really can make a big difference. And so I always, that would be something I would definitely recommend. And so it's just one of those things that just trying to figure it out on your own doesn't always work.
Right, and who you get the content from is very important. I had mentioned that there's all this content available, but there was a great point that you made about who do you listen to? Who do you get your information from? That matters a lot. So we were talking about the power of thought. And of course, when we think things, usually very quickly after we think it, sometimes we say something as a result of our thoughts. And that's another one of the concepts that you elaborate on in this book and in your training. What about the words we say? What kind of power do they have?
Oh, they have tremendous power. I mean, they're right after the thoughts in the lineup. And, I heard a story recently, and it was on YouTube. I was just flipping through there, and there was a gentleman, Sadhguru. He's a yogi, guru, from India, and he told this story, and I'll share it with you now. But it really simplified things so much for me, like just the way that it was just. I just really liked it. It just really resonated with me, and it was about this man. He's walking through the wilderness, and he's on this long journey, and he's walking, and he comes upon this land that's just beautiful, and it just had this amazing energy. It was like heaven, right? And he went and he saw this beautiful tree, and he sat underneath it, and he's sitting there and resting, and he's thinking about how hungry he is. And so he starts thinking about all these different foods and how good they taste and all of his favorite dishes. And then he goes, I wish I had those foods. And all of a sudden they all appeared in front of him. And so he ate it without thinking. He just jumped in and ate it. Then he said, I'm really thirsty now after eating all that food. And so he starts thinking about all the beverages that he loves. And he goes, I wish I had those beverages right now. And all those beverages appeared in front of him. So he immediately drank them. Then he started thinking about desserts. And all of a sudden he asked for those, and those were there. And so now he's full. He's kind of got his brain working. And he goes, hold on a second. I think about food, I ask for food, and I get food. I think about a beverage, I want a beverage, I ask for a beverage, I get them. Same with dessert. Oh my God, there must be ghosts here. Something's evil here. And all of a sudden the ghosts appeared. And then he said, oh no, the ghosts are going to torture me now. And so the ghosts tortured him. And then he said, oh no, now that they're done torturing me, they're going to kill me. And so then he died. So, what it was is what you say is what you get. And, obviously a lot of times it helps to say it a bunch of times, but there is that effect, because your thoughts become those words. The words reinforce those thoughts. The thoughts reinforce those words. Now they get some strength behind them. And now you're in creation mode. And so it really is creating what you say, you are literally creating. And so if you take a negative stance on something and say, let's say you just got a little bit of gas in your car, and you start going, I know I'm going to run out of gas. I know I'm going to run out of gas. You're going to run out of gas. You go, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I only got 2 more blocks to go. You know what I'm saying? it really, I mean, it's just an example, but I mean, there's more practical things, but it's just really that attitude that you're taking, and it's really establishing that attitude. And it's have you ever heard the term, if you tell or hear a lie enough times, you'll accept it as truth. And that's a scary thought, because unless you're at least lie positively, say, I,
Right.
you just say something. Hey, if you're going to lie, at least go positive and go big and see what happens. But it's going to be way better than if you were just repeating these negative statements all the time. Oh, I know I'm going to screw up on this, or I know I'm going to do this, or, you know what I mean? Just have these negative, it's like worrying. That's like praying for the worst result possible. Because, and then when you worry, it's usually constant. So it's kind of like ceaselessly praying for what you don't want. That's kind of a way to look at worry. But, that's just where it leads. It just, words are either going to lead you in a positive direction, or they're going to lead you into a negative direction. It just depends on the stance that you're taking and the state that you're actually in. Because that's really, because you're programming your subconscious mind, which dictates 70% of your actions. That's a lot. And you don't even know that you've programmed it. It doesn't show you the programming, because your subconscious mind doesn't judge at all. If you say, I want the flu, it'll give you the flu. If you say, I want $10,000, it'll find a way to try to help you get $10,000. It's just, what you say is what you get. And again, you got to say it with some intention and with some, and generally when you're in a negative state, it's really easy to generate that emotional state to manifest, because you're either scared, worried, or angry. And those are really have a lot of juice behind them, a lot of energy, so that when you start saying those words with that emotion, it's got a pretty strong chance of happening.
It's really interesting when we're going through just conversations daily with people, the amount of negative talk that we engage in sometimes and that we hear other people engaging in. And then you being able to, when you start to be more aware of this and train yourself, one of the things that I've noticed through the years is I can examine very quickly how the words that I say have an influence on my life. And I also see it with other people. Like you said, that was a great story that you shared about the immediate impact of what this guy was saying, and how it brought him every wonderful thing that he wanted, and ultimately it brought him complete negativity and eventually death. So again, the awareness, any strategies that you have to help people become more aware of the things that they're saying, and that there are negative connections to some of the things that they say. So what are some of the words that people typically say? We were talking a little bit about this before we came on the air today. What are some of the phrases that you might be saying that you don't even realize are causing you or creating negative results in your life?
Well, I mean, I shared with you, I used to always say, somebody was doing something that was bothering me or having a bad effect on me, I'd go, you're killing me. Can you just stop with that? You know what I'm saying? I always look with, you're killing me. And I had to really think about it and really catch myself and try to eradicate that from my vocabulary. And there were a number of things like that. They're not like popping into my head right now, because I think I've eradicated them pretty good. But there were so many things. But I will remember this story. Somebody was telling me, and this was maybe, well, it was before I wrote the book, so it was like 2013. I said, she said, everybody's getting the flu. And I said, you know what? I never get the flu. And, the universe doesn't recognize no, not, never. It only recognizes, an actionable thing. And because there's no such picture, because your brain sees in pictures, and the universe, again, follows that along with it. But there's no picture for no. There's no picture for not. So I said, I never get the flu. I never get, no, I said, I never get sick, is what I said. And by the time I left the building to my car, I was sneezing and coughing, and I had the worst head cold. And I went from feeling perfectly fine, said that, got to my car, which was across the parking lot, and I was sick as a dog. And it was just, and I'm the type of person that I'm generally always healthy, which would be a better thing to say. You gotta kind of change the terms a little bit. But I even put that in my book that happened. And I said the law of attraction, usually it's not instant, but in that case, I think I said it with so much intensity of emotion that I had no choice but to deliver right on the spot. And it was horrible because I didn't need that head cold, and it was just poor choice of words. That made an impression on me, made me really, really watch my words a lot closer. But I think really acknowledging the bad things or negative things or things that you don't want in your life coming at you constantly helps give you the motivation, if nothing else, to really watch what you're thinking, what you're saying, because you kind of get sick and tired of all this bad stuff coming your way. And you start having things not going in a good way for you. The first thing you got to go to are your thoughts and then your words. What are you creating?
And you were touching on the emotion behind what you were saying and how there was probably a lot of emotion behind it, and that's what caused you to get sick right away. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the power of your emotions. You just gave an excellent example of that, where you had strong emotions about never getting sick, and the universe flipped it and said, oh, okay, well, great, you're sick.
Right.
Can you give us more examples of how the power of emotions also affects your life?
Well, if you go to, and now I'm going to my martial art uh, hat, okay, but now when you experience certain emotions, they will actually impact certain organs in your body. And this is traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, so fear weakens your kidneys, anger weakens your liver, uh, grief affects your lungs, your large intestine. So each of these, maybe worry affects your stomach. So each of these emotions actually directly impact your health, just to start with. But you also can do exercises and movements. A lot of qigong and bagua will actually start to uh, clean out those emotions and kind of clean out the worry. So there are ways to remove negative emotions, but they actually have a physical effect on your body when you experience negative emotions. And some of them are very, very specific. You feel this is what's going to happen. And again, this is traditional Chinese medicine. And in my martial art background, I mean, I do medical qigong along with your standard qigong, and really understanding the dynamics between your energy and your emotion and your body. And so I think that's a real significant piece. But as far as, say, law of attraction and manifesting, when you go down that road, there's something called the lost uh, Gospels of Thomas, and they were in the Dead Sea Scrolls, so they were translated. And there's a conversation that Jesus had with him, and so this was straight from Jesus to him. He wrote it down on his notes and he got it in his gospel. And he talks about, if you want anything, your heart and your feelings and your emotion basically have to be the lead horse. That needs to be the driving force in the asking of that. It has to come from your heart. And so it really, in the standardized Bible now, they have a watered down version of that story. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you can find this on YouTube, they have whole things on this very specific thing. And it was just amazing how it was like learning quantum physics, back in the day. And but it was really about how much of an impact your heart has. And I don't know if people really realize, but your heart is made of 70% neurotissue. So the same stuff your brain is made out of. And that's very powerful. And this is scientifically proven, documented. This isn't just kind of pie in the sky stuff. No, this is, actually has a, it's documented. And, but it really, with the emotional intensity, that's like the fuel, because your brain broadcasts your thoughts, and the emotions determine the fuel that you're going to be using in order to make that happen. And again, you have negative emotions and positive emotions. So certain negative emotions have more fuel and they'll get you to a bad place faster. And then you have positive emotions that will again get you to a place faster. If you look like Esther Hicks, she has the emotional tone scale, and just really how the hierarchy of the different emotions and which ones are the most intense, which ones are kind of the least intense, and really how to move from one emotion to another emotion, kind of the order in which you do that. So, I think that's a big piece of it. But I think
With your emotions, John, I mean, in your human life, your emotions swing in so many different directions based on a lot of things, experiences that we're having, our backgrounds, and just a multitude of experiences that we're going through just every day being on the planet, happiness, sadness, changes in direction. Um, to keep yourself in an emotional state that will lead to you being successful in your life, or being happy, or being feeling fulfilled in the way that you're living your life. What are some of the things that a person can do? How do you, and I know you were talking about Esther Hicks and the emotional scale, and which I think is just fantastic. It shows you where you are in your emotional scale at any given time. What are some of the shifters that you use for yourself? And I know, you being a martial arts guy, you're taught a lot about centering and things like that. But what are some of the things that a person can do to get themselves in the emotional state that they want to be? Because I think we all really want to be in control of our emotions.
Yeah. Well, I think the number one thing you can do is do things that you enjoy. If you have a job that you hate, it's pretty hard to be in a happy state all day. Where with what I do, I mean, I teach martial arts, which I love. I do coaching, which I love teaching. I love interacting. I love helping people. I write things. I write a book, do different things like that again, I really enjoy doing. It allows me to kind of really work through my own material so that I understand it better, and I can have an opportunity to share that with others. So if you can find things that you just love doing, I mean, some people just don't have a choice. They're in a certain situation and they're going to have to find a way to reframe it and try to find something positive to be able to hang their hat on with it. But really, it's about trying to situate yourself where you're doing things that you love, do things that you enjoy, and really, I'll give you, I mean, martial art training, there's a thing called healing sounds. And there's a sound or a vibration that you make with a physical movement that actually breaks up negative emotions. There's one for anger, there's one for worry, there's one for fear, there's one for anger and rage. They just sadness. there's just so many different emotions, but you literally make the sound and it releases that emotion from you. So that's pretty powerful. But there's other techniques, TFT, thought field therapy. I use that. It's hitting acupressure points in a certain algorithm. Joanne Callahan. Uh, I I've used that. I used it last night just because I was just doing a tune-up and just wanted to just make sure I was clearing everything. So I look at it as clearing negative energy and really trying to keep my emotions in the best possible state. It requires maybe some maintenance work. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're not messed up, you still want to make sure you're cleaning it up and trying to bring yourself to the highest emotional level that you can be. And again, I would go back to the material that you listen to and what you watch. You cannot watch the news and be in a good state. Okay. Those two are just not compatible. All right. There's things that you can watch or listen to that really are uplifting and actually put you in a good place. And there's things like the news that will sink your battleship 10 out of 10 times. And it just, don't put yourself in a vulnerable place like that. Don't, no, I'm just going to watch for a few minutes and see what's going on with the stimulus. You know what I mean? It's a trap. It's a trap. Don't go. You're not going to come out of there in a good way, because it just really does. It's what you're feeding yourself. It's all Zig Ziglar thing. Just what are you feeding your brain? What are you feeding yourself? If you're feeding yourself negative stuff, you're going to be negative. If you're feeding yourself positive stuff, you're going to be positive. So, it's kind of a no-brainer, but we still get dragged into some of the negative stuff from time to time. But I think that with the emotions, it really it affects your health, and it affects your ability to create the life that you want, because that emotion is either going to take you closer to what you want, or it's going to take you further away. And so really guarding your emotions, being aware of your emotions, and willing to take the action required to make sure that you're in that good state.
Yeah, feeling good is really important, and feeling good is actually infectious, because
Yeah.
when people they can sense, right? I think they can. I can sense when someone's feeling good, and I want to be around a person like that. And I think it's like that for other people too. When you're feeling good and when you're in a good mood, people want to be around you. Who wants to be around someone who's negative? And not many people enjoy being around you when you are just putting negativity out into the world. It pushes people away, in fact.
Right.
And those are your emotions that are doing that.
Yeah. But even worse is if somebody wants to join your party. You know what I mean? You're this really
Oh,
negative
your
person. Well, yeah,
negativity
no
party.
one else. There's no one else like there's smoke in the fire. That really gets you in trouble.
You do have those people out there. They're looking for a negative kindred soul to connect with. Yes,
Exactly.
that is so true. That is so true.
I'm working on a second book, and it's called Get Out of Your Own Way. And it really, it's going to take kind of what I'm doing in my your life, or you are the common denominator in your life, and it takes some concepts out of there and really expounds on them. But it's really about kind of taking your power and not getting in your own way, trying to find a way to empower yourself and really try to move your life forward. And it's so many people feel like they have to be told what to do, and if you do anything that everybody else doesn't agree with, then there's something wrong with you, and that you shouldn't be following your own bliss and following your own intuition, and following what's truth to you and what you truly know. I'll give you this example, and it's kind of funny. I was about to go on a cruise, and I had a temporary crown on, and it came off right before I was going to leave. So I didn't have time to go to the dentist. So I just stick it back on there and ate from the other side all for the whole cruise. And I get back, I go to the dentist's office, and, she says, well, there's obviously going to be a problem. So I brought in a specialist for root canals. And so this root canal specialist literally tortured me. She hit it with a hammer. She shocked it with hot. She shocked it with cold. I said, did that hurt? Of course that hurt. She goes, then you need a root canal. I go, no, I don't. And I knew in my heart of hearts, in every fiber of my body, that I did not need a root canal. And I said, no. And she said, well, you need one. I said, well, tough beans. I'm not getting one. So then I went back to my dentist, and she goes, so I hear you need a root canal. I go, that's not what I heard. And I go, I'm not getting one. And she goes, how about this, John? Because she knows me. She goes, how about if we just put some temporary glue on the crown and put it on for 2 weeks? And if you're still okay after 2 weeks, we'll make it permanent. I said, all right. And 2 weeks later, and now about 6 or 7 years later, it's still fine. I did not need a root canal. But I knew, I have a good connection with my body. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I know what's what. I was in the hospital for 4 days. They're trying to convince me they needed to remove something. And I said, no, you don't. Leave me alone. Let me out of here. It took me 4 days because I needed to escape. I literally had to tell them. Saturday morning came around. There was a new doctor on shift. I said, yeah, they told me I'm leaving today. She said, I don't see that on here, because they wanted to operate and they wouldn't let me leave until they let them operate. And so I said, no, they said I got to go. But then I don't see it on this chart. He probably forgot to write it down, because it's more kind of like an agreement between he and I. If I felt better, then I go home. And I got out of there. But I refused to let people do things to my body that I don't agree with. And so that's kind of claiming your own power. You're not going to let somebody, just because they're a doctor, doesn't mean that they know your body better than you do in certain instances. Because I wasn't just saying these things, I felt it with every fiber of my body. So it was a deeper sense of knowing. It was not, I just didn't want to do it. And I was being stubborn and just being disagreeable. That wasn't really what it was about. It's just, I truly knew that. And it turned out that I was right.
Yeah, and stepping into your power, John, means being committed to your conviction. And like you said, when you've got a sense of how something is, you have to trust yourself. And I think for a lot of people, and myself included, maybe in times I've had experiences where I've gone against my best instincts to follow somebody else's instincts, and it ends up being a disaster. So being willing to live with stepping into your power, taking responsibility for it, because you're the common denominator in your life, just like your book says. What do you think about that? When you make a choice, like the choice that you made because you believed in it, how does a person stand firm in their conviction?
Well, I think they have to believe it. I mean, bottom line, you really have to trust yourself, trust your intuition, and not feel that you have to listen to somebody else because they have a certain position. That's just, I disagree. I think certain things doctors say are so right there. And, if I need emergency surgery or I need their help, oh, I'm all ears. But if they say something to me, like they want to give me uh, some type of a treatment that I'm not willing to take, and I'm just not going to do it, uh, I'm going to stand by my, but I'm not going to second guess myself, because now it's wishy-washy. Now you're vulnerable. You know what I mean? Because when I'm standing in my power, when I'm standing behind what I believe and know to be true, nothing's going to move me. And actually, my feeling that way is going to change the situation. It's not even a matter of just agreeing with it. No, I'm going to literally, with my thoughts and with my words and with my intention, I am going to change that situation to fit by how I feel, not the other way around. And I've done that many times with great success. But anytime you doubt yourself, you just put a hole in your boat. So you have to be without doubt if you go down that road. You can't be going, well, maybe the doctor's right, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. You're either on board or you're not. You can't be wishy-washy in a situation like that, especially if it has to do with your health or your future, right?
Yeah, that's right. And John, you shared some incredible insight over the course of the last hour about so many things that can help a person to live a more successful life, a more fulfilling one. And again, John is the author of You Are the Common Denominator in Your Life. He's also got other books that he's going to be rolling out very soon, as well as his personal uh, development coaching that he's doing with people. And John, do you want to give yourself a plug for all the services that you have to offer that can help people?
Yes, well, you can go to growthisadecision.com. And what I have going right now is I am offering a free 1 hour consultation just to kind of go over your situation, maybe give you some insights or some perspective that might help you. If we do have other coaching programs, we have a 3 month coaching program to um, really help you to kind of get a good bearing and really get that momentum and get things moving forward. And I am for the month of August, the 3 month program is 50% off. So this would be a really good time to do that. I just feel that with everything going on in today's world, it's really important to maybe make it a little easier for people to access things and do things while they have the time, because a lot of people, you know, are struggling with their careers and having work and being able to do that. So that I am offering. So, just go to growthisadecision.com and you'll see all the trainings. My book is there. You can also, that's the hardcover version of my book is on that website. You can go to Amazon to get the paperback or the Kindle. And one thing that I have coming up, and this is kind of just something that I just came up with recently, is putting together workshops to help teens and help young adults that with the coronavirus situation, there's just so much depression, anxiety, fear, and frustration that our young people are really having a really hard time with. And so what I'm trying to do is that it's, through Zoom. So it's something that's remote, but if anybody wants more information on that, they can always contact me, because I'm looking for organizations that I can get access to these young people to try to help them, because I really see it, and I see it as a problem and something that I feel that through the empowerment workshop, and again, it's something that I just really, really want to do, because I really think that there's so many people that need help right now. So it's something that I am definitely pursuing and really want to impact as many of our teens and young adults that are really suffering right now more than probably anybody. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. And yeah, so I really appreciate your having me on. And it's always great talking with you, and to be able to share all of this with your audience was, it's always a lot of fun. I really enjoyed being here today.
Yeah, it was great to have you come on and share, John, about how people can step into their power. I think if people realized how powerful they were, our world would change, and that's what these types of broadcasts are all about. Is just starting to, for those who don't know, undo. So there are people out there who do know how powerful they are, but we want more of the world, more of the people in the world to embrace their power and know that they are creators, and that you truly can have the life that that you've dreamed of. And there are people out there like John who can help you along the way through coaching, through books like this, and some of the other content that we were talking about over the course of this interview today. So, yeah, John had mentioned that we are all experiencing a interesting time in our history, and I think it's one of the greatest times ever. I mean, I see incredible things that are developing as a result of what it is that we're going through. And when you embrace these principles that John was talking about today, you can make that a reality. So yes, again, John, thanks for stopping by, and thanks all of you out there for tuning into PRConnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Stay tuned for a host of shows. We've got a new show that we're going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. It's called Voices of Humanity, and it's going to be all about interesting current events that are happening in these interesting times in our world. So stay tuned for that. Also, stay tuned for our regular broadcast of The Love of Business. Maria Faith will be back next week to do a broadcast with a business owner, and so many other shows that we're going to be rolling out in the near future. So stay tuned and tune into PRConnectionsradio.com. Take care of yourselves and see you soon.